Welcome to On Second Thought, a podcast powered by Kissflow, where we go beyond the obvious.
In this series, we have specialists and wizards, people building great companies, taking us beneath the surface to where the magic really happens.
Stay tuned for interesting conversations. On today's podcast, we have Rakesh, Director of Sales at Kissflow. He's a key strategist in the company, leading a very dynamic, energetic, and young sales team. He also happens to be a crazy history buff and a Manchester United fan. Hi, Rakesh.
Hello. Hi, Joyita. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Rakesh. So let's begin with knowing a little more about you, your journey with Kissflow. So how long has it been with Kissflow?
It's been about 6 years now. So I think I joined back somewhere in 2014-ish, somewhere there, I guess. When I joined, I was the first product specialist.
Right.
So now, from being the first product specialist to director of sales, it's a good journey, I guess.
Yeah. So about 6 years back, right? So Kissflow 5 years back and Kissflow now. So from a TPS to a director of sales, like how has the face of sales changed in Kissflow?
I think when I joined it, we were in 1.2, right?
Okay.
And from there to now, we are so advanced as a product, right? We are now a digital workplace fully. We have added so many dimensions to the product. So it has changed in various ways. One, on the product side of it. Two, the size of it. When I joined, we were like, 20-ish, somewhere there in terms of the number of people in the organization itself. And most of them were from the product team in themselves. We're like 3 people in the sales, with one being Suresh, who's the CEO himself, sitting and slogging along with us. To now, we are such a sophisticated team, right? And we are setting benchmarks in every dimension in the SaaS industry. So I'm very happy about the journey.
Nice. What is like the size of team right now? From say 3 of you to
It's about 50.
it's about 50 right now, and we as an organization are about 200 plus today. Yeah, that's been a journey. Nice. So speaking about journey, right, and speaking about, you were talking about Kissflow 1.0 to where we are today. So can you tell me about some winning strategies which you've implemented, which you've been through, built with Kissflow?
I think the strategy, whether I'm implemented or not, is that the way we model our sales team is that usually sales is considered to be outside the world. It's like more of a con job. You go and get a sales deal done. It's about numbers and all of it. But that's not the way we are selling as an organization, right? So we have a solid philosophy behind it. What we do is called as a value-based selling, right? That is that we try to be a problem solver, understand the customer's need, and try and solve the problem. And if your intentions and you're rightly going through that entire measure of going and solving a problem, the customer will always see the value in the product. Once he's able to see the value and connect the value, the result of a sale is just a byproduct of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that is the real winning strategy behind us, that we tend to go and solve customer need. A lot of the times we've said, this is not the right product for you, you should go for a different product.
Right.
And that has helped us to secure a customer coming back after 2 years, saying that, I evaluated the product at that time. We had a different need. Now I have this need. Now I'm coming back to you to solve my problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how we've been doing sales.
Sounds very interesting, Rakesh. How does this happen on ground? Like, how do the teams adapt to it?
If you look at this, right, when we say value-based selling, so there are 4 cycles in terms of value-based selling itself, right? One is need assessment. Then you need to do value matching. Then you try and bring about conviction that for the prospect, he feels that, yes, this will solve my problem, and then realization. This will be the 4 cycles, right? So how do you do need assessment, right? So for this we use something called the BUNT framework. Some of them even call it NTBA as well, right? Instead of
Yeah.
so when you say BUNT, it's budget, authority, need, timeline. When somebody signs up to the product, any SaaS product, it doesn't mean he's willing to buy the product. It simply means that he's ready to evaluate the product, right? So how do you take this curated suspects to a validated prospect is need assessment, right? So in this particular exercise, what we try to do is that we try to take budget, need, timeline, and authority, right? So the need is the focal point that you're trying to solve. What is the challenge he has, and can our product solve it? At the next part, which is the timeline, is he very serious about this evaluation? Some of them might be looking at a product which can solve their challenge in, let's say, 2025. Then he's just at a very preliminary level as such, right? He's not going to seriously evaluate the product. He's just looking for softwares which could help him in the future. So these are not a prospect itself, correct? Then you look at the other aspect, which is budget. Whatever you're proposing as a product, does he have enough money to come and buy the product? This is more about convergence and not about a solid line, right? The last and the most complex part is the authority. Can the prospect carry the decision of purchase? Which is not a simple one to pick up, right? So what I came up with that internally, I came up with a 3-triangle theory. So what we do is that we look at this authority through 3 lenses. One is what we call as a power, reach, vision. What is the power of the individual with relevant to the decision which is going to take, right? For example, let's say I'm a sales director, right? And I want to buy a CRM. This is my department's problem and I'm going to try to solve. So my power in this relative to this decision making is pretty high, right? At the best, I'm going to go to one level up to get the decision done, right? Let's say another organization is trying to bring something like a digital workplace or an HR suite, right? It's not as simple as that. Even though the team which could be evaluating could be the HR team, but the decision is now spread among every departmental head because every department is going to use the product, right? So the power in relative to the decision making of the HR director there would be very moderate and not high, right? So we look at it in terms of power and reach. By reach, what I mean is that how much influence the person can carry in the decision making, and vision is how well he can connect and what are the other implicit needs he can connect to, right? So explicit needs are very easy. You say this is my problem, but when you say this is your problem, that doesn't mean that it ends there. There are a ton of other things which are hidden behind which you might not know that, right? And a person with a higher vision will be able to connect this. This is the first lens. The second lens we're going to look at it is the person who's coming to evaluation and discoverer, an influencer, or a decision maker. A discoverer is that he doesn't understand the problem, he's just looking for a solution. Like, I have been assigned a task to look at workflow problems. He doesn't know what are the needs, right? And he's just looking at a very, very meta level at that. So he's a discoverer. He will not be able to carry through the evaluation as such, right? An influencer is somebody who understands the needs and is trying to do a value matching, right? He says, I have this problem and this product has a value which could potentially solve my problem. A decision maker with somebody would come and say, yes, this value will come and solve my problem. That is the second lens. And the third lens is you look at it from the execution perspective as such, where you look at it as that, is this person an evaluator, an implementer, or the sponsor, right? So only I'm going to be part of the evaluation. I'm never going to implement it internally or carry through this implementation. Implementation doesn't mean setting up the system. It's about change management internally as well. So am I going to carry this through to the end? That's what I meant by implementer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I am a sponsorer as well, so if you connect all these three triangles and look at the authority, then you really know who the person you're talking to,
Yeah.
right? And then you put the context of how the entire evaluation is going to happen. Is it a hierarchical or a chain level approval that I take it to my boss and he takes it to his boss for end part of it? Or are you looking at something like a committee where I present it to 5 people and I need approval in the 5 people to get it across? All of this you need to understand to tell whether somebody is a validated prospect or is just a curated suspect.
Wow. Wow. That was like a mini masterclass by itself, Rakesh, I must say. So this like, see, we spoke about the approach, and I wanted to know how you managed to convey this to your teams to, execute it on ground, right? Like, how does that happen?
Again, the philosophy, this is slightly on a very high level, right? So what we do is that we break it into three parts. When somebody signs up, the first thing internally we do is we write something called um, a first report, an FR. That's how we call it. It's like, I picked this philosophy from what the police guys do, right? Whenever they report an incident, they write an
Yeah.
FI, first
FIR,
incident,
yeah.
right? So we write something called an FR, which talks about who the prospect is, what did he claim for the product for. We know what the search term they use, what is the landing page they use, what is their title, what is their company, what is potentially we know is that similar backgrounds. You've got a lot of prospect who are signed up. We know the pattern, right? So we can predict what sort of a value he may seek in a product like his, because it's a platform. It's not your everyday run of the mill predefined product. It's a platform. So you need to understand the pattern in which it happens, right? So that's what we do in the FR, and we start putting out what could be his potential pitfalls. Like somebody signing up from EU, would they need? We need to ask a question whether they would need a hosting in EU, right? They may want another guarantee on GDPR compliance, right? So these are specific value which that prospect only needs. You don't need to go and talk to this for somebody in US. If somebody from a medical background in US signs up, we need to talk about HIPAA. So to understand this and dwell in a little deeper on the first report, then we go and talk to our prospect. We don't just give people to use the system just like that, because our product is a little bit of a sophisticated platform, and we wanted to have a guided user experience in the platform. So what we do in that is that when we go to a discovery call, we try and put the bunt into work, right? With emphasis on need. So that's why that NTBA comes into play, right? So you put that need, you put the light on the need, try and understand what the problem the customer is. And by that, we end of the call, we write something called a pitch report. What the pitch report does essentially is that it understands and documents the need in terms of what is the prospect going to do, what is his role in this evaluation, what is he trying to solve as a problem, what is his vision for the product, what is his current ecosystem which is there, and how Kissflow is going to interact with the ecosystem. Is there some of the critical success factors he's looking from a product, and how the critical success factor he is looking can be capitalized by a product and our value offerings as such, right? And then you map and write something called a USP, unique selling point for that particular customer as such, and that becomes the pitch, right? Then you take it to the next level where you do a proof of concept presentation or a value proposition where you go ahead and connect the dots and show it to them. And then once the pitch is been presented to our prospects, the next journey starts it, which is taking from the value matching to the conviction, where he feels that, yes, this is going to solve my problem, right? Somewhere between the conviction and realization, a sale will happen, right? So here what we do is that we do something called impact-based selling. That is that we don't showcase features. right? We showcase value. So we understand what is trying to solve. For example, most of the customers who come and most of the prospects to become our customers, in the category which we serve as a workflow, the value they seek is traceability and trackability, right? It's very easy to sell. We tell we have reports, but that doesn't answer his question. You got to actually show him how he is going to solve it, right? So we build in the proof of concept. Beyond this particular question will not be solved on proof of concept. You need to do a dry run. You need to invite users, ask them to put some requests in it so that he can realistically look at, okay, this is how my system will move on, right? How do I measure the rate of efficiency in which it, then we can connect to the value, right? Um, that is how conviction and realization happens, and thereby sales happens.
Wow, wow. I just have like one last question on this model. Is very interesting. Like, what do you look for when you like, before you apply this model? Like, for example, a sales rep in the company, what does he look for before he applies this whole strategy in it?
Um, I think the first part is that they should be willing to talk to us. Right? The prospect should be willing to talk to us. Of course, ever since that, Kissflow has been one of the product which is like uh, always on the top of the charts, right? There are always a ton of competitors who are looking to sign into the product. There are a ton of students who wants to discover the product. But these are all not prospects, right? And there will always be evaluators who don't want to reveal themselves, uh, right? And they want to do things at a very hidden way. Uh, these are all not the person you are actually going to sell anyway in a category and a platform and a product which we are, right? Maybe it will work for somebody who's going to sell an individual product, but we are a B2B organization, right? We cannot sell B2C, right? Workflow is an organizational product. Right? So these are something which we look for a prospect. How would you do? And the willingness to talk. In the willingness to talk, what we want to do is that we come with an approach where we establish our credibility. We want to save their business. We want to go and increase their ROI. That is our only objective. A sale is an outcome of it. And SaaS is always about building relationships over a long period. Right? We are doing this because we have a very strong product, and the sales, actually we are more of a large pre-sales team rather than a large sales team. Right? We tend to look at how we solve customers' problem. Everybody in this team is very, very technical. They can talk technology to any level as such. That's the kind of a team we're building. And that's also part of our problem-solving mentality. If you bring people who are only at closure-minded, this will not work. So it aligns to a value-based selling where we're trying to generate and showcase the value, and thereby sale will happen.
That's nice. It's like, I guess, they say, I was just reading something yesterday. It said it's all about helping a customer identify their real problem and, diagnosing the underlying impact, right?
Yeah.
It's more or less like the value which the team follows by.
Correct. I think if you put this in a context, right, a lot of them think sales is about to match the following. You want this, I show this. But it is not like that. It is actually more like peeling an onion, where the customer defines one set of problems to begin with, right? And you show enough value to peel the first layer, and then you peel the next layer, then you peel the third layer, and you go on, and you only have the onion left, right? And that in that particular situation, when you arrive, yes, absolutely no reason why not to buy the product.
Interesting. Speaking about, while we were speaking about teams, peeling the onions, and you were also mentioning about how aggressive, people need to be or how technical they need to be. So that brings me into a question of team management, right? And about skills. So it's like the very famous movie Wolf of Wall Street. They say that it's business and leave your emotions out. But contradicting to that, many sales leaders do talk about how important it is to be empathetic and resilient, right? So, how does the sales team at Kissflow balance that?
I love the movie, but I don't align myself with the philosophy of that type of selling. Uh, So, as I already said, we are into value-based selling, which is based on spin selling as a model, right? So the real question is that if you try to solve the customer's problem, that should be the focus and nothing else, right? The rest of it is more of a gear change rather than. So you got to be really understanding what the customer's challenge is. If you don't understand, like for example, I asked one of the questions when I go to customer call saying that, okay, you want to automate things now. I understand that, but why now?
Mm.
What triggered you to make it? This problem has always been existing in your organization. Why now? And his answer actually tells you how serious he is about the problem and how much of an impact that problem has caused him. Right? I have customers or prospects who are now our customers saying that, you know, I can't continue my business. It takes 20 days for us to process one new customer internally. Can you help me on that? And when we built the proof of concept, we did it in overnight. And this is for one of the unicorns called Rappi. Uh, and it changed their entire growth pattern. They started processing a new customer for them, the customer is listing of hotels and restaurants and so on, right? So they started doing it in 8 hours, 20 days to 8 hours. It changed. And it helped them to accelerate their growth. And that is the real joy, not the money which we get from them. Nobody's going to remember that, but everybody's going to remember that, yeah, we brought in customer like Rappi.
Yeah, yeah. So I also wanted to ask you about, like, managing a remote team. And how do you keep your team motivated? Because as you said, I guess the sales team really needs to buck up and run almost every day with the same energy at the same pace to get things going. How do you manage to keep them motivated?
I think the irony is that everybody thinks sales is a very success team. It's a celebrating team and all of that. But sales is always the team which lives in failure and hopes for success. That's how we live, right? Every day is a failure for us. The day which we get a sale is the only day which we get success, correct? So, so we're searching for a needle in a haystack. So that is how it is. So that is why this entire sophistication which we spoke about the last 10 minutes, right? That all of it is to guarantee that we are in the right path. We do everything within our hand to make sure that every prospect's problem is solved. And then the result will follow. There's no question in that. And we believe in the value proposition economically as well, right? Coming to the remote part of it, the SaaS sales has always worked remotely, right? Our prospects are all across the globe. We talk to them on daily basis. We are the same. In a sense, we are their teammates, right? We are their assistants, their sidekicks, whatever you want to put it to. And we try to help them to get the value. In fact, whenever a product specialist is going to join a team, I show them 3 slides, right? I'm going to talk about the 2 slides. One, I show them 4 Avengers, right? Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, and Black Widow. And ask them, who is a product specialist? Who do you guess?
I'd let you answer that.
Most people would look for a powerhouse like a Thor or a Hulk, right? Or somebody might fancy a sophisticated Iron Man. But the reality is that you got to be a Black Widow. You need to know when you're going to play a support role, when you're going to move in the front. Are you intelligent enough to understand the situation and play according to your role? Because the product basis is all about you are going there, helping your prospect who is trying to sell your product internally. He is your champion. You are not, you should feel that, he is my champion. He is the go-getter for you. I should equip him with all of it, right? The second example I show them is that if you have watched golf, there will be a person who will be playing the golf, and there will be another one who will be giving him the puck, or he carries his bag around and advises what puck you should use, right? Often people think that the salesperson is the person who's driving, who's hitting the ball. It's not like that. The salesperson is the person next to him. He says, you know what, your capacity is only this much.
Yeah.
This is the problem you're facing. The wind direction is this much. You should only try that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
effectively, when we are talking to a prospect, we need to understand what their capacity is. Right? Some
Yeah.
of them will be a world beater. You need to play along with it. Some of them might not be like that. There'll be when we are dealing in a category where a business user can come and solve a problem, right? Which no other product does.
Mm-hmm.
We are in a category where IT can come and also pick it up as a workflow and do it. And our product can serve both these customers, right? So we got to manage and understand a prospect fully to give him the right ammunition for him to take it in his organization.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask any salesperson, their objective will be to make, if you ask them what is the purpose of you as a product specialist, you would say, I want to make my prospect a superhero in his organization. That's it.
Very nice.
Right?
Yeah. So speaking of superpowers and everything, right? Like, can I ask what is your superpower? Would you call yourself the Black Widow of the team?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Sorry about that. So I don't know what Avenger would fit me, and I don't know. But I think I can be. When I become a product specialist, I have to be a Black Widow, right? But I actually see myself more like I'll show you why.
You have a case on it.
Yeah, that's how I see myself. I have asked her to match.
I'm sure the character as well.
Yeah.
So
That is what it is. It is about understanding the future, trying to predict the change. I think if you are a leader of a dynamic team, then change management is not a challenge, it's the way of living. You got to constantly evolve as an organization. And that evolution to keep the team in the tip-top form is very important. And you constantly do that.
So, are there some strategies you follow to keep your team up and running during these remote times? You know, I get it that the customers are always remote, but right now, even the team support to get your energy up and high is through probably a video call like this. So, how does that happen?
I wouldn't call it as a strategy. It's more of a tactical thing which we do, right? My team, which is the inbound team, is more like a family, right? I'm sure everybody in RNs, in Kissflow would tell that these guys are always noisy, man. These guys are always, hitting the bell when they're closing the sale or having a very long, a potluck lunch kind of a stuff every day. We're kind of missing that. So, like for example, we have this ritual that every time we close a sale, we come and hit the bell, right?
Yeah.
And pretty much everybody in the company starts to clap when you do that, right? Now we can't do that. So what we do, we have our Kissflow chat, right? So whenever a sale happens, we set up a trigger and the message pops up in the sale and we celebrate it virtually.
Right.
So that's one thing which we do. And we also understood that sales as a team, we tend to vent a lot because we live in so much of, and I told you, right, we live in failure and we expect for success. So there's a lot of venting, that there are a lot of things you plan which don't go well on that day, right? So we have two meetings. One is the stand-up and one is the, we call it as the vent out meeting. So the stand-up is where we start up the shift, you go back in, you think about what you want to do, and we communicate to the team as such, right? This happens at a shift level, at a team level as such, right? And in the stand down, we have a shift level meeting where everybody will come and tell what went wrong that day. And it's more like a venting mechanism for them, right? This is one thing we do. Every Friday, we have this G2G, right? 5:30 to 6:30. So we have our own meeting before that, 4:45 to 5:30, where we come and we see everybody in a video call. We play, we talk about what is the thing which we did this week. TPS would come and present how she or he has been successful uh, as a product specialist. We have a learning session around that. And evening at 8 to 9, we have a play night. So pick a game and we play. It could be any
Wow.
game. Damsharaj, Antachari, Pictionary, Mafia, and my team.
Wow, wow, wow. That's very nice. I guess that's also like a key thing for teams to stay motivated, right? To have a mix of, work and play.
Hey, it's about getting that pressure out. We are always in a pressure cooker situation because we are running for targets, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when you see people, you talk and you engage in a high communication team. Suddenly, you're going to talk to your mother about how do you do sales? That's not going to work. That's not going to.
Absolutely.
You need somebody who understands what you're talking, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of high pressure, right? One last question on team management. How do you manage the pressure of numbers in the team? Because as we also spoke earlier on the conversation, it's assumed to be a number driven role, right?
The number.
And
I think one of the things we clearly understood that even when I'm going and talking to my team or any of my managers talking to the team, they're not going to ask why you did not do numbers because the focus is not on the numbers. The focus is on the activity, right? And for the individual, he knows that they're very responsible. If you believe that they are responsible, they will be responsible, right? That is why we are looking at in terms of the approach being a problem solver. It doesn't make sense to say you are a problem solver. Your approach should be solid. Your approach should be solid, and then ask where your number is. Then the problem is not on the number side of it. The problem is on the approach side of it, and what is the direction you want to set the team towards.
mm-hmm.
So that
Wonderful.
is something which we tend to do, and the sales induction program which we have itself. One of the things we do is that we ask our product specialists to come and tell what they have achieved as a person. And nobody, and I mean nobody in the last 2 years have actually told I made X million dollars as a salesperson. They've always came back and said, these are the brands I brought into this company, right? So you understand the value system which we have built. They run on pride in terms of not on numbers of achievement. It's more on the scale of achievement because that's how SaaS works. You might get a big brand, and you might get hundreds of brands, but they might not start big because it's SaaS. It's not a big bang approach all the time, right? You grow and you, as per your demand, you increase the value of the deal, right? So you got to understand all of these philosophies, and that's how we linked it.
Wow. Honestly, I'm falling in love with the way you're leading your team and how your team is right now. But we're unfortunately running out of time. And this brings me to the last quick two questions to you, Rakesh. One tip you would probably give the 25-year-old you.
The 25-year-old me,
Mm-hmm.
probably that's where I started in Kissflow, I guess. So in the beginning, I tend to run with my plan. If I feel something is right, I just go and execute that. But in the last 3 years, I've understood that it's just not about you. When you are expecting your team to run along with you, not you dragging them forward. So you got to ask them to be co-creators along with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish I was that smart and when I was 25.
But two habits that make you stay up in the game.
I'm going to start that with the game itself. So
what's that?
Everybody wants to have something to kickstart their morning, right? I don't look like somebody who do a lot of workout. Not my kitty. I'm not into any beverages like coffee, tea, and all. So every morning when I get up, I play a game of chess. Yeah.
Wow.
Very naughty, but yeah, that's me, I guess. Really sparks me moving forward, especially when you win something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beating a 9-year-old, 10-year-old Magnus Carlsen is so.
So it's like you wake up and then you need that adrenaline in you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, when I get up, it's everybody need a Kickstarter, right? That's my mechanism. That's what I've been doing for a long time now. So it works. It seriously works. In days where I don't have a mood to play a chess, you know, right? In sales, you need to take a late night call. Sometimes I would sleep at 3 and had to get up at morning 7 to get up and take another Australian call. I would rather not play a chess at that time because I'm like hammered. Then I would play something which is like a Counter Strike or something like that.
But still a game.
Still a game. I'm a very, very, very vivid gamer. I love gaming. I have been playing those I love gaming.
That's awesome. Rakesh, thank you so much for bringing this energy into this episode. It was insightful. It was a mini masterclass. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem. Thank you so much. The pleasure is always mine.
Thank you so much, Rakesh. See you.